my friend. So I just got back from an epic bikepacking trip across Italy, and guess what I relied on the whole time? This Eink smartphone, the BIGME Hibreak Pro. I wanted to see if it could handle real life out on the road and still cover all our daily smartphone needs. Spoiler alert, the trip was pretty rough. My phone was not only attached to a non-waterproof mount, but also exposed to wind, dust and the occasional rain shower. Yet somehow it made it through in one piece and actually performed really well. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share my real-world experience with this phone. I'll break down how it held up, what I wish the folks at BIGME would improve, and answer the most common questions that you've been asking, like battery life, performance, and navigation. I ran a few tests and have a bunch of notes on how long it lasts, even with full day of GPS. I'll also show you what happened when I tried to pair it with my Garmin for navigation, and I will walk you through the quirks and surprises I discovered on the road. Now, this device has its flaws, and I will talk about them later, but here's the bottom line for me. The BIGME Hibreak Pro is a fantastic choice for a very specific kind of users and use cases. If you're someone who's ready to step away from social media, gaming, streaming videos and flashy animations, and you crave an eye-friendly screen without losing essential smartphone features like making calls, sending emails, checking your bank account and even paying for groceries with NFC, this may be actually a great choice for you. And to give you some context on price, the Hibreak Pro sells for around $439 or 415 euros. For the similar money, you could grab a Samsung Galaxy A36, a OnePlus 10 Pro or a Motorola Edge Plus. Those are really great phones, no question here, and the Hibreak Pro doesn't and can't really compete with them on specs or speed. Instead, it's tailored for people like me, people who want to cut down on doom scrolling, who don't care as much about social feeds, who may be reading a lot and want more of a distraction-free, easy on the eyes experience without giving up the basic smartphone essentials. With pricing out of the way, I want to start with the thing you all asked about the most, which is battery life. How well does this phone hold a charge? Well, it's way above your average smartphone. During my bikepacking trip, I had the Hibreak Pro mounted on my handlebar, running the Komoot App non-stop for navigation with GPS on the whole time. I started my ride around 8 or 9 AM with 100% battery, and by 4 or 5 PM, after about 8 hours of riding, there was still 20 to 25% left. To put that in perspective, my regular Samsung would have needed at least 1, if not 2 recharges during that same period. GPS always eats battery, so the fact that the Hibreak Pro lasted that long is pretty impressive. Now, about using Komoot App on an Eink screen. Surprisingly, it worked very nicely. I saw minimal glare, the screen refreshed quickly enough as I moved, and zooming in and out, tapping different map options, all of that felt smooth and responsive for an Eink device. If you've ever tried navigation on an Eink device, you know responsiveness can be questionable, but BIGME nailed it for my needs on the road. What about battery drain on a standby mode when you're not actively using the device but cellular service and background apps are still running? Well, the Hibreak Pro has a 4500 mAh battery, and over 8 hours sitting idle, it lost about 2% of battery life. At that rate, we're looking at roughly 400 hours, about 16.5 days of standby on a full charge. I think that's really good for a smartphone. For comparison, the Samsung Galaxy A36, which has a 5000 mAh battery, advertises around 370 hours of standby, so only about 30 hours less than the Hibreak Pro. Now, if we move on the other spectrum of the scale, let's say an iPhone 16 usually manages about 2 to 3 days of standby at best. That's way lower than what we see here with BIGME Hibreak Pro. Now, I also tested battery drain when reading. I ran 2 tests using the default X-Reader Pro app, turning 1 page every 20 seconds. So my first test was with low impact settings, so brightness off, Wi-Fi on and mobile signal on. Average drain was about 2.5% per hour. The second test was a high impact setting, so brightness was on max with warm light at max setting, and the rest of the settings were exactly the same. Average drain was about 4% per hour, which is actually very reasonable. I was worried the front light would drain double or triple the amount, which I've seen in some other Eink devices, but I was positively surprised here. The takeaway, even in the brightest mode, you're looking at minimal drain, enough to read for hours without worrying. And if you read with the screen dimmed, you could easily go days between charges. So in short, if you care about long battery life, especially for navigation or extended reading sessions, BIGME having an Eink display really shines here. And even when compared to similarly priced smartphones, nothing else comes close in battery endurance. Hey, before we move on, if this video is helpful to you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate your support. In terms of build quality, the Hibreak feels solid in the hand with a smooth plastic back. It's a bit chunky compared to most smartphones today, and the big bezels around the screen make it look less modern. Think of it like a rugged tool rather than a sleek gadget. I also really like the fingerprint reader. It unlocks the phone fast and feels secure. There are also two custom buttons on the side, which I found super helpful for extra navigation shortcuts. If I have to nitpick a few things, here's what stands out the most. First, the bezels are pretty large. I'd love to see them trimmed down so the screen could either be bigger or the phone itself could be a bit smaller. Second, there are noticeable gaps around the edges of the screen. I wish the display fit more seamlessly into the frame. Finally, the speaker grill design isn't great. It has small openings where dust and dirt can get stuck over time, and it doesn't look very polished. Overall, the Hibreak Pro is sturdy and functional, but there's room to make it look and feel more refined. Now let's dive into some of the questions you asked in my first impressions video of this device. You had some great points, so I want to address them one by one. One of the questions I saw was about whether I'm missing not having a color screen. And honestly, I'm not. For how I use this phone, color isn't really needed. If the screen were in color, I'd definitely lose a bit of text clarity and slower refresh speeds, and I'd see the screen being overall darker. I can't watch videos or really enjoy colorful images on an Eink screen, so black and white works perfectly fine for me. Now, there are some areas where I'd love to see the color, but not at the expense of the point I mentioned earlier on. Another question was, does the phone connect to your Garmin watch without any problems? And the answer is yes, it works perfectly fine with my Epix 2. It syncs just as quickly as my Samsung phone, and if you're using Garmin Connect, I recommend that you switch to the light theme because the dark theme makes text harder to read on an Eink display. All the rest works just the same like on a normal smartphone. A lot of you also asked about light bleed at night. Yes, the Hibreak Pro does have some light bleed around the edges. You'll notice it more if you're using dark theme apps or the color inverter feature. What I've also noticed is that the light can leak not only from the edges of the screen, but also from the small gaps between the bezel and the side of the phone, especially along the top, which feels a bit concerning. I'm no engineer, but it feels like some kind of design isolation issue here. Finally, someone commented that Eink phones were supposed to be ultra-low power minimalistic devices, not trying to compete with full-featured smartphones. They asked, who wants to watch YouTube on a low-resolution screen? Well, my take on this is that companies with Eink products, especially within the smartphone niche, are exploring what people actually want. Eink makes perfect sense for a minimalist phone, but there's a demand for Android, third-party apps, NFC, and a decent camera, features that this device offers. So which style of Eink phone will win that niche? Well, I believe the ones running Android, but the Eink smartphone category is still in the early stages of expansion, and I'm very excited to see what ideas companies come up with in the coming years. And by the way, if you have any other questions about this product, drop them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. Now, I also want to point out a few random things that came to my mind while using the Hibreak Pro. First, it has a lot of features you'd expect from a smartphone. I've installed loads of third-party Android apps like Duolingo, Telegram, Audible, ChatGPT, chess.com, Garmin Connect, and much more, and all of them work fine. You can also access Google Drive or Dropbox, use banking apps like PayPal or Revolut, make calls and send messages, navigate with maps, scan QR codes and documents, and even pay with Google Wallet via NFC. I've tested it all and again had no issues in that regard. You can read ebooks and PDFs, browse the internet, watch a video if you really need to, and even use light social media apps on a pinch. Under the hood, the interface runs on Android 14, but it's wrapped in BIGME's own launcher and experience, similar to their Eink readers and tablets. This means you get features like ball navigation, split screen support, and an Eink center to control different refresh modes. Overall, I'm happy with simplicity of interface and settings provided to me. You can comfortably read on your commute or during a coffee break without the strain of an LCD or OLED screen. Even if you forget your Kobo or Kindle, you can still read comfortably using their apps or by importing the books directly to the device. Now for one small nitpick, the menu bar that appears when you swipe down from the top right corner feels just too tall to me. It takes up too much space and I often ended up accidentally tapping volume settings when I was trying to close it. You can shrink it a bit by removing 3 rows of quick access icons, but you can't really customize it any further, like removing specific brightness icons. It's a small annoyance, but I wanted to mention it anyway. Okay, those are the random things I've noticed. Overall, the Hibreak Pro packs a surprising amount of functionality for an Eink device, and these little details are just part of the experience. And hey, if you decide to get the Hibreak Pro, please consider using the affiliate links in the description. It won't cost you anything extra, but it supports my work and tells me this video was helpful to you, so I appreciate your support. Now, if you'd like to learn my personal story and how Eink saved my eyes, you can check out this video right here. And if you're looking for a larger Eink device, you may want to check this video where I've reviewed this 13.3-inch Booksnode Max, which is the most comfortable for handling A4 documents. As always, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one. Stay screen conscious. Bye!